Thank you for joining us here at the Access Framingham Studios. My name is Brendan Fitzpatrick, and I'm pleased to be joined today by U.S. Representative for the 5th Massachusetts District, Katherine Clark, here at the studios. Thanks for coming in, Katherine. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Always good to be here.
And as you come in here, we're just a matter of days away from the Massachusetts primary elections. Election day is September the 1st, Tuesday, September 1st. Early voting is open now until August 28th, and one of the races on the ballot, for Massachusetts Democratic Party voters will be this U.S. representative seat. Representative Clark is running for re-election on Capitol Hill. There are two other candidates, Jonathan Paz and Tarik, who we spoke with a couple of weeks ago leading up to Election Day. We did want to speak to the incumbent, and again, we appreciate you coming in here, Representative Clark, to talk about your platform as well as your background, which is where I wanted to start it. For folks who may not be aware or as in tuned, I wanted to go over your background as well as some of the things that you would identify as your key accomplishments within the Capitol building over the last couple of years.
Sure. So you want to just start right there?
Background and accomplishment, sure. Yeah.
I am married to Rodney Dow. We've been married. We just celebrated 34 years of marriage. We have 3 adult children and raised our family in Melrose, Massachusetts. I am an attorney and was working primarily in public service, whether as a prosecutor for a while in the Attorney General's office, here in Massachusetts, doing policy work, and then as general counsel for the Office of Child Care Services. That really is an experience that is a large part of the reason that I ended up in politics. And to be honest, I never really saw myself running in elected politics, but I ran for the Melrose School Committee because I was very interested in making sure that all-day kindergarten was open and affordable for every single family. And that is the issue that really propelled a sort of very unlikely path for me arriving in Congress. So served on the Melrose School Committee, then as a state representative, and then in the state Senate. And in 2013, when Ed Markey ran for John Kerry's open Senate seat, I jumped in and was very privileged and honored to win the nomination and go on to win the seat then, and have proudly served Massachusetts 5th District since 2013.
And again, you've been in Washington since 2013. This is your first contested primary for this seat since 2014. I was curious,
right.
what's it been like to have that difference over the last couple of months running for re-election in a contested primary, some of the differences that you've noticed that you've experienced?
You know, listen, I think having contested races is never bad. Let's have a conversation about ideas. But I can tell you that my focus remains on winning the majority because that is the best thing for the people of the 5th District, and making sure that we have great candidates across the country that represent their district. Because what I'm hearing from the people of my district is reflected in what I hear as I travel across the country. They just aren't making it in this economy. And in Massachusetts, we have very high costs of housing, electric bills. Groceries are running high, transportation issues, and we are usually first or second in how high childcare is, something that is so needed by working families across this district. And those are the issues that we have been fighting for, that we made progress on in the majority, but it is so urgent. The Democrats take back the majority and really keep up our fight for the people of the 5th District in Massachusetts against Donald Trump and the GOP that has decided to become his lackey instead of representing the people who sent them to D.C.
So you gave a general overview of a lot of the issues, generally speaking, that you'd be looking to focus on if you are to win re-election into Washington. Specifically for your platform, what are some pieces of legislation that you'd be looking to champion if you are elected to another term?
Childcare is sort of my bread and butter issue. It's the issue, as I said, I worked for as general counsel in the Office of Child Care Services here in Massachusetts. And it's just one example of something that should be a public good that we have said to families, you're on your own. And families who often need two incomes are simply unable to find affordable quality childcare. This should be a given in our country, and people should be able to count on sort of those bedrock issues that help families not just get by, but be able to thrive. And so whether that's childcare or paid leave, reducing the costs of health care and making sure that even when people have health insurance, that they are able to find doctors to go to. These are all issues that are critical to Massachusetts and critical to families across the country. And you sort of layer upon that what is happening around immigration and the impact on small businesses. I held a roundtable here in Framingham this spring and heard from business owners here about what the challenges were that they were facing. And over again, what it came up was that immigration and this cruel, despicable crackdown on immigration that is being administered by ICE and the Trump administration was hurting their bottom line. And these are often immigrants themselves who have moved to Framingham, have had thriving businesses, but now have skilled employees who are too afraid to come to work. Even people who have work permits, are here legally, are so afraid of what might happen to their families. And that's impacting who their customers are. It's impacting who their workers are and what that workforce is. And we're seeing it also with Trump's tariff policies, which just yesterday we are seeing Canada and more tariffs that is going to have dramatic impacts again on the cost of lumber, dairy products, all sorts of trade that we have with our partners, that Trump's tariffs have just really hurt the businesses in this community specifically, but also across our district and Massachusetts.
Right, and just a quick tangent in regards to the immigration topic, because Framingham has a massive immigrant population. I feel like this is worth pointing out. We spoke, as I mentioned at the start of the show, with both of your opponents in this race, Jonathan Paz and Tarik Samman. Both of those candidates called for the abolishment of ICE. Would you endorse the abolishment of ICE, or do you think that the path forward regarding ICE and immigration law enforcement is a different path?
Oh, I think it's a very different path. And what we agree on is this terror that we are seeing has to stop. It has to stop. And as I have done hearings in Minnesota, I've gone to the Dilley Detention Center where I spoke to and saw children that are being detained in our name. This is not the worst of the worst that was as promised. These are often our neighbors, people who are building houses in our communities, who are teaching that we worship with. These are, as the mayor of Biddeford, Maine said when I was up there for an ICE hearing on the killing that happened there, he said they're one of us. And so immigration reform, the proposals that we have put forth that have been outright rejected by the Republican Party, it is another reason why it is so imperative that we regain the majority to put these issues back into the urgency which they need to be addressed. And ICE is one of them. We have an out-of-control personal military force for the President of the United States. It's not keeping Americans safer or more secure. And when they take away from aspects of ICE where they are supposed to be working to help us with cybersecurity, to make sure that we are interrupting the trafficking of fentanyl, that we're interrupting human trafficking rings, and especially around children. Those are some of the functions of ICE that we should be focused on, and everything has been moved over. And this budget that Republicans have approved without Democrat support to rapidly increase the size of this military force is something that is unacceptable to every single Democrat in the House.
Right. And again, part of these conversations, the reason why we like to have them here at Access Framingham is to give you or any other candidate a chance to answer some of the criticisms that your opponents may have, whether it's in a general or a primary election. Both opponents, when they came in here to speak with the Frame, criticized the general idea of corporate spending within politics. I know this is a pivot to corporate spending outside of immigration, but Jonathan Paz said, and I quote unquote, corporate spending in politics is equivalent to what he said, his words, selling out our district, whereas Tarik Samman says it ruins what should be a quote-unquote team effort on Capitol Hill. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on both of those takes from your position as the sitting representative for the district.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what they were saying or said, but I can tell you this, that I have been the sponsor. I've been the lead sponsor on doing two things: protecting our right to vote and overhauling our campaign finance system. Our campaign finance system is creating distrust with voters, and it has a corrupting influence, and we are certainly seeing that in this Trump administration, which is just overtly corrupt. So let's win the majority. Let's get the gavels in the hands of people who will represent the people of this country who want to see this system change, because that's the way we rebuild trust in government. So I think I agree with them that how we do our campaign financing is critically important to making sure that people know without a shadow of a doubt that the vote of their representatives is in their best interest. And I can tell you that 10 out of 10 times that I vote, it is for the best interests of the people of Massachusetts 5th.
Right. Now, throughout this primary process, have you spoken to either of your candidates just to kind of get what they're thinking, just to understand where they may be coming from, whether it's Tarik Samman or Jonathan Paz? Have you interacted with them throughout this process?
I've never met or seen Tarik, and I've exchanged pleasantries with Jonathan at different events.
Fair enough. I believe it was WBUR at the outset of this race, at the start of the year. They classified this race as a challenge from your left in terms of the political spectrum, a challenge from your left flank. I wanted to ask you specifically, do you think that's a fair characterization?
Not really. Okay. I mean, good luck. I mean, I have always been a member until I moved into leadership of the Progressive Caucus. And I think that what we are seeing right now is that the people of our district, the people of Massachusetts, and I would say across the country, they're not interested in sort of the labels. Are you left? Are you right? Are you progressive? Are you centrist? They're interested in fighters. Do you see my family? Are you going to fight for me? And that is what I bring every single day to this job. And that is why I'm running for re-election, because it is so important right now to have somebody who is not trying to put labels on things and have division, but is going to work for the people of this district with every tool they have, with every fiber of their being. And that's the work that I have done for the last 13 years.
Right, and that's actually a good transition into my next question that I had here. For the people specifically of the district, if you are to win re-election here in this race, Representative Clark, are there any other additional avenues that you'd be looking to enact for people within the district, the constituents, to be able to reach you when you're in Washington and provide their thoughts? Any additional levers that could be pulled to open up public input, I suppose?
Open up public input with my constituents.
Sure, yeah. Any additional ways for people to get connected with your office or whatever it might be to improve constituent connection, I suppose.
Well, one thing I'll say is a source of real pride is our connection with this district. We have top-notch constituent services. Last year alone, in 2025, we returned to the taxpayers and individuals of Massachusetts 5th District $20 million that they were owed from the federal government. And our caseload around immigration, helping families as they are facing unbelievable challenges, to the simpler things of trying to get a passport when that was really difficult. Our work with veterans groups and seniors, being here in Framingham at least once a month so that we hear from the people of the district. That is a critical connection. But of course, we're available by phone, by email, through our websites. We've done 5 town halls in the last year. We do senior fairs, veterans fairs. We work and show up in high schools and at YMCAs. So it's really, if anybody has an avenue they think we haven't explored, we're all ears. But that, for me, is the critical piece that really shapes and forms the work and the policy positions I take. It's hearing from people of this district. What are they going through? Are they able to provide for their families? What are the barriers in accessing government services that they're facing? What are their dreams, and how can the government get out of their way when we need to and be there to provide that solid floor so that there's no ceiling on their success? And for me, it's a lot about going into our schools. How's our school lunch programs going? And being here in Framingham, I can tell you, it's great. But that's a key thing, to be able to be in our schools, talking to parents and teachers, talking to the students. That is the way that you keep this work fresh and keep it connected to the needs of the people here in our district, because that's what it's about. This shouldn't be about DC saying how things should be here. This is about taking the stories, the experiences, and the challenges of the people, our neighbors, people in our communities, and bringing that, having that inform and drive my work in DC.
Now, one question I always ask to wrap these interviews up is that when people are filling out their ballots, whether it's early voting or on September the 1st, as we're about a week away from that, and they go through and they look at this race for U.S. representative, they see your name, 2 other names, what's one thing you would want them to remember as they're filling out their ballots?
I'm fighting for you. I'm fighting for you every single day. And it's your experience, and know the power of your voice. I think DC can be seen as a place where does it really matter who I vote for? And I'm here to tell you it does. And vote for people who see your family. And I think that is what I have demonstrated over my last 13 years in office, that I see and work solely for the families of the 5th District of Massachusetts. And that's why I ask for your vote.
Again, folks, that's U.S. Representative for the 5th Massachusetts District, Katherine Clark, running for re-election here, leading up to the Democratic primary election. Election day, once more, is Tuesday, September the 1st. Early voting is open now through the 28th of August. Until then, Representative, thank you very much once again for coming into the studio today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Brendan.